See, all or nothing limits us. It ties us to the thing without taking into account anything else around us.
Hi there, I'm Vanessa Kaiser, a ranch girl turned social worker, business leader, and now entrepreneur. I'm passionate about diving into organization, leadership, personal growth, and efficiency. Around here, we call it rhythmic living, that continuous cycle of assessing the season of life that we're in and creating habits, routines, and processes that serve us best. This show is for the busy, the dreamers, the tired, the go-getters, those who want to live fully, grow steadily, and feel inspired each day. Welcome to the Inspiring Heights podcast.
I've seen this video circulating on social media a lot lately. It starts with a person who is saying like, I'm on a diet and I had 2 donuts for breakfast today. The next scene is this person is then consuming an entire cake and eating a whole box of cookies and then a whole bag of chips. And then it cuts to the woman who is taking a drink of water, spills a single drop, and then dumps the whole glass on her shirt. Or she's running a minute late, and so she doesn't go at all. Or she spills a Cheerio out of the box, and so she dumps the whole thing on the table. The message? Just because we veer off track for a moment doesn't mean that we need to abandon the entire journey. One misstep isn't a reason to give up. It's just a moment, not a pattern. And it brings to light an uncomfortable truth. Choosing to continue down the wrong path, even after we recognize our mistake, doesn't really make sense. And yet, how often do we do exactly that? We set a goal and we march steadily toward it until an obstacle comes our way. Travel, sickness, unexpected changes in plans or routines. Suddenly, we're not on track anymore. And instead of course correcting, we throw up our hands and we say, you know what? I've already messed up this much, so I might as well just keep going. I'll start back on track tomorrow or next week or next year, whenever. That video is impactful because when we step back, we see how illogical the pattern really is. And yet, we do it all the time. How many Americans are ready to give up their gym membership that they purchased on January 1st because they haven't been meeting the goals that they thought they would? How many have already exchanged Kindles in bed for iPads because after a few nights of scrolling instead of reading, they're struggling to get back on track? I wonder, if we knew the why, could we possibly course correct? Let's find out. Do you ever wish there was a natural, science-backed way to ease aches, boost your mood, and even support healthier skin? I felt the same way until a friend introduced me to LumiBox. Not too long ago, I was venting about long-time ankle pain to one of my girlfriends, and she encouraged me to check out LumiBox, a red light therapy device. She brought it with her for a girls' weekend because this is what it's like to be in your 30s, my friends. I gave it a whirl, and after just a couple of days, I can honestly tell you I was sold. That was the beginning of my journey with this incredible tool for holistic health. Now, LumiBox is a Kaiser family favorite. We use it for everything from soothing aches and eczema to giving our mood a gentle lift on tough days. Here's the deal. LumiBox harnesses the power of red light and near-infrared wavelengths to promote healing deep beneath the skin. Backed by science and loved by so many, it's a simple, natural way to support your mind and body. And for a short time only, LumiBox is offering my listeners an exclusive $260 discount. Just visit LumiBox.com and use the coupon code INSPIRINGHEIGHTS at checkout. Don't wait, this could be your next step towards holistic health. I'll put the link and the coupon code in the show notes. Honestly, there's probably thousands of reasons why we do this. But today, we're going to focus on the big 3. Our all or nothing mindset, our breakneck speed, and our lack of a clear why. It took me a long time like over 28 years of my life, to realize that my all or nothingness was a limiting belief that was doing me a huge disservice. I joke about being a black and white thinker because I totally am sometimes. And I always say, oh, I'm a social worker. I'm supposed to think in gray. Here's the truth. Some things are black and white. They are all or nothing. But not everything is. Think about when a child is learning to walk. When they take their first step and then they topple over, what do we say? Good job, little Johnny. Come on, you can do it again. Keep trying. And we do that over and over and over again until little Johnny is steady on his feet. We hold his hand. We teach him to hang on to things as he makes his way around the room, and we ensure that he is out of harm's way if he were to take a tumble. What we don't say to little Johnny is, come on, kids, suck it up. If you can't walk a mile with me hands-free right now, then what's the point of even walking at all? And yet, when we are learning a new habit or inserting a new routine into our lives, we don't hold that same level of grace for our own newness. Here's some examples of how this might look. We set a New Year's resolution to read 5 books a month. We get to the end of February and we realize we've only read 2 books total. We are weary because the stress that we are not meeting our goal is telling us a lot of lies about ourselves in our head. Instead of continuing to prioritize reading in a reasonable fashion, we just stop prioritizing it altogether and proclaim, you know what? Maybe next year will be my year. Like, I can't make up for lost time. It's too far gone. Or we identify something that we want to add to our lives, like, let's say, a morning quiet time practice. We've seen others do it, and now we're inspired to start. It's not something that we've ever done very consistently before, but we're here and now, and we're ready. But instead of starting slow and easy, like 15, 20 minutes a few times a week, no, we go for 60 minutes, 6 days a week. And after a few weeks of not hitting that very audacious goal, we chalk it up to not the right season at best. Or worse, I am a terrible person. And we walk away altogether. Maybe we latch onto a new habit, let's say going to bed earlier. And we put in place this complex bedtime routine in order to help us prepare for a good night's sleep. And it's going really good until our friend invites us over for game night that we know is going to interrupt our pre-bedtime routine. And so we decline. No problem. Until next week, when the same friend, who we usually hang out with a few times a month, invites us out for dinner and a movie, which again is going to interfere with bedtime, so we decline again. Okay, now that friend is feeling weird. It happens one more time, and they're like, okay, seriously, are you prioritizing sleep over a relationship? Eventually, the tension wears us down, and we throw out all of our hard-earned healthy sleep hygiene habits because I can't hang out with my friend a couple times a month in the evening and get to bed every single night of the month by 9 p.m. Can you relate? Maybe it isn't about going to bed at 9 for you. Maybe it's about your workout routine or keeping your house clean. Here's what we have to remember. These goals, habits, and routines, they aren't bad. They're not the enemy here. We are fighting against the limiting belief that we have to do something 100% right 100% of the time, or else we are failing. Depending upon our personalities, sometimes this limiting belief can lead us into obsessive-like behavior, which can be equally destructive in a different way. Most of the time, however, this leads us to a place of defeat and ultimately giving up. But good news, with a mindset shift, we can change it. Let's go back to our example. Okay, so you get to the end of February and you're way off on your book reading goal for the year. Instead of letting the lies that our heads are telling us, what if we paused and approached with curiosity? What's preventing me from hitting this goal? Is this goal even realistic? Is it the right season for this goal? Is there a possibility that I might still hit this goal this year, or do I really need to change it? And if I do need to change it, what's a good goal for this year, this season of life? Is it 12 books a year? Okay, so 12 is really different from 60, yeah? Yes. But is 12 better than 2? Absolutely. Our morning quiet time routine. What if instead of rushing in with a hour a day, 6 days a week mindset, we decided to take baby steps? We started with 10 to 15 minutes a couple times a week. Might we start to get a feel for what we want our mornings to look like without the pressure of a long, perfectly situated morning? And might that momentum keep us moving forward instead of burning us out after a few short weeks of not meeting an incredibly high mark? And isn't a sustained rhythm of quiet time, no matter the length, better than 2 weeks of an hour a day hit or miss filled with stress and negative self-talk because you just can't get your life together? And our bedtime routine. What if we prioritized going to bed by 9 p.m., say 5 times a week instead of 7? Might we be able to maintain some of our current friendship practices, like hanging out in the evenings a couple times a month, while still prioritizing sleep in a holistically healthy way? See, all or nothing limits us. It ties us to the thing without taking into account anything else around us. Now, if you're like me, maybe you're wondering, how do I make the distinction between an all or nothing mindset and discipline? And this is a very important question because we do have to have discipline. We cannot grow without discipline. So let's look at the characteristics of both. So some key characteristics of discipline are flexibility within reason, like adjusting a routine when a situation warrants it, seeing misses or failures as a chance to learn and grow, practicing consistency without being rigid, and awareness that small steps equal big wins, especially as they stack on top of each other. Some key characteristics of all or nothing thinking: expecting perfection every time, exaggerated focus on succeeding or failing, there's no middle ground. Even small mistakes or misses evoke big feelings of defeat. All-consuming focus on one goal or routine at the expense of other priorities. The key difference? Discipline allows room for imperfection and emphasizes pivoting when things don't go as planned. All or nothing thinking leads to an overwhelming sense of failure, often accompanied by quitting when things don't go as perfectly planned. All right, now let's talk about the speed in which we try to do things. Quick story time. I remember when I was young, my penmanship was horrific. We used to have to write take-home notes at the end of each school day. These were reminders for our parents that our teacher made us write on these specific, like, half-sheet papers that were titled take-home notes, and then they had lines on them. They had to be signed and returned to the teacher the next day. If we didn't return the take-home note, we got our name written on the chalkboard. This was like a warning. Like, if we misstepped again, like misbehaved during class, or we forgot to bring the take-home note 2 days in a row, we would get a check mark. Check marks meant that we missed 5 minutes of recess. And if you got 3 or more check marks, you missed all of recess, and your parents were getting a one-on-one meeting with the teacher. Yikes. Is this dating me? Like, do we still have chalkboards in school? Anyway, my parents would become frustrated when they couldn't read my take-home notes because of my poor penmanship. And usually just because I was like copying the note from the board and not really absorbing the message, I also had a hard time regurgitating the note verbally. So eventually my parents made a rule. If they couldn't read it, they wouldn't sign it. Now, when you're 10 and you're a rule follower, this is a very big deal. 15 minutes of recess was a must. So I learned that if I would slow down to write my take-home note, the dominoes would fall in my favor. My parents would sign it, I would return it, and 15 whole minutes of recess were mine for the playing. If I hurried through writing the take-home note simply because I was in a hurry and not because we weren't given plenty of time to write said note, the dominoes would fall the other way. My parents wouldn't sign it. I couldn't return it. Bye-bye recess. Hello, name on the board. Here's my point. We live in a culture that is always in a hurry. Move faster, do more, don't stop, sleep when you're dead. And that breakneck speed can often lead to the demise of our rhythms and routines. Hurry can put us in timeout. It can keep us from recess, if you will. Hurry can lead us down a couple different paths. Sometimes they intersect and sometimes they don't. One is the path of mistake, like my take-home note story. We misstep, we get sloppy, and ultimately our speed causes things to go sideways. The second is a path of burnout. We fill our days with more and more, which causes the need to go faster and faster, and then finally our tank runs out. We're depleted and we literally can't go anymore. Both paths have obvious impact on our goals, our rhythms, and our routines. See, hurry causes this underlying sense of anxiety. And when we live our lives in a hurried way, that means we are living an anxious life. And at some point, we all grow weary of it. So we throw our hands up and we give up on our goals, our rhythms, and our routines just so we can have a little peace and quiet. Example, you make a goal to start working out 3 mornings a week at the local gym. And each day after the workout, you find yourself scurrying to get ready to get to work on time. The shower is stressful, and then you're blowing into work, usually with wet hair, applying mascara at stoplights in between. You grow to hate these 3 mornings each week because they are wildly overwhelming and they usually leave you feeling frazzled before your workday even begins. So after a month or 2, you just can't take it anymore. So you stop going to the gym altogether. Or you decide you really want to prioritize family dinner time, but simultaneously, your kids have baseball practice at 6:30 on the other side of town. On practice days, dinner is rushed. Usually, something is spilt, broken, or missed altogether. The family rarely enjoys them, and getting out the door for practice is nothing short of a battle. So after some time of rushed dinner time around the family table, you give up. PB&J all around whenever, wherever you want. Just be in the car by 6 so we aren't late. Hurry isn't just born from a new routine that we're implementing or a new goal that we're reaching for. Hurry is built into every aspect of our life. But in each area, it brings that same sense of dread. So when we start to feel the angst stir up in us, it is a good reminder to pause and curiously approach the situation. What if instead of quitting the gym because the feeling of being rushed 3 days a week was getting to us, we look to see how we could eliminate the hurry? Can we simplify how we get ready on those days? Could we pack a gym bag the night before so to save time in the morning? Could we leave the house 10 minutes sooner? Could we cut our workout shorter by 5 minutes? Could we delay the start of our workday by 15 minutes? Dinner on baseball practice nights. Could we move the family table to the car by planning a fun picnic-style on-the-go meals that we feel good about? Eat with the family while we're driving so we're still all together having a meal, but we aren't frantically trying to get out the door or pretending that we can have a 5-course meal in 20 minutes? The question we are asking ourselves here is this: can I pivot so I don't have to feel the hurry? We're looking for margin. Shameless plug here. I have a whole section on margin in my course, The Productivity Playbook. If you are looking for more in-depth training, I'll make sure that that's linked for you in the show notes. If you have spent any time at all around Inspiring Heights, you know that I am all about finding tools and processes that make life a little easier. What can I say? I am obsessed with efficiency. So here's the real scoop. When I first started seeing freeze dryers online, I dismissed them. Too expensive, too big, and what would we even use it for? Seems like an awfully large investment for some freeze-dried bananas. But then as time went on, I started seeing more and more internet friends using freeze dryers in incredible ways, like creating soup in a jar that just needs water to be transformed into a delicious and nutrient-dense meal on a busy night. My curiosity grew, and about 14 months ago, we decided to take the plunge. Let me tell you, this is one purchase I have absolutely zero buyer's remorse for. The freeze dryer has been a game changer for meal prep, saving money, and reducing waste. For example, I can buy a 20-pound bag of onions, chop them all at once, freeze dry them, and not cut another onion for actual months. Sure, freeze dryers might seem like a homesteading trend at first glance. I thought the same thing. But after using the Harvest Right freeze dryer, I am convinced that it is a tool almost anyone could benefit from. Whether it's batch prepping meal ingredients or creating meals that just need water to be ready, this machine makes life simpler and more efficient. If a freeze dryer sounds like the solution for your busy life, check out Harvest Right. They have options to fit different needs and budgets. Visit my affiliate link, affiliates.harvestright.com/2639, or click the link in the show notes. Before we get back to the show, I have one more bit of great news. Harvest Right is running a lovely deal for February. From now through the end of the month, you can get up to $900 off select freeze dryers. Plus, for my listeners, Harvest Right is offering an additional $100 off your purchase using code LOVE100 at checkout. Just follow my affiliate link, affiliates.harvestright.com/2639, and enter code LOVE100 today. I'll link all this for you in the show notes. And finally, we have our lack of why. Sometimes this phrase can feel overused and a little tired to me, like I really wish I could find different words. But the thing is, there is so much truth behind it that it's actually hard to overuse. Sometimes we just start doing things out of necessity, right? The laundry keeps piling up, so we start doing it more often. I feel better when I get outside and move my body, so I just start taking walks daily. Our kids sleep better at night when we don't consume blue light for an hour before bed, so we start reading a novel together as a family. We don't necessarily need to take days to deliberate over our why in these scenarios. We see a need and we spring into action. Other times, though, some dedicated time to naming our why will mean the difference between success and failure of said thing. Back to our very first examples of reading books, implementing morning quiet time routines, and getting more sleep. All of these things are hashtag trending on socials, right? We see video after video of people getting ready in the morning, starting with their quiet time on the couch. We see story after story of people showing off the books that they read this month and encouraging us to pick up their favorite author's newest book. And if I don't see an ad for something that will improve my sleep at least once a day, I probably haven't been on socials that day. See, when we are influenced into a new rhythm, routine, or goal, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes the healthy habits or routines that others have in their lives can serve as an inspiration for us. And I actually think that's kind of cool. The problem comes into play when we start these new things with only that inspiration on our back. Because you and I both know what happens. We get a few weeks in and then life happens, and that inspiration starts to take massive hits. At first, maybe it's just getting hit with some snowballs, but then you trip and you send it flying off your back. You finally get it back on, only to be smushed by the weight of your schedule. Soon enough, you're ready to just drop the inspiration. I mean, after all, it's not a permanent attachment to you. It's easy to unclip from your back, and let's be honest, do we really need one more thing to do right now? My guess is some of us are feeling this. It's mid-February, and those New Year's resolution inspirations are probably starting to wear pretty thin by now. How do we keep from jumping ship? We have to get honest about our why and determine if it's worth the time and sacrifice to keep going. Are you prioritizing reading books just because your favorite influencer posts videos of being cozied up on a couch with a tea and a Kindle and you want to look like her? Or are you prioritizing reading because you want to be a lifelong learner and exhibit that behavior to your kids? The motivation there is very different. And without naming it, that goal can get lost in the midst of our day-to-day life. I could give you a list of like 10 questions to ask when naming your why, but I want to keep it simple today. Here's 2. What level of priority is this to me and why? Be honest with yourself. And if it's not for a good reason, if it's to keep up with the Joneses, if it's to look like your favorite influencer or to try and live this perfect and tidy life, it may be time to dig deeper. Is this goal, rhythm, or routine worth your time and energy? Friend, here's the permission slip. It's okay if you discover your why doesn't make the thing worth it. It's okay to, in the words of Elsa, let it go. Seriously, let it go. Prioritize what does matter, what does have real impact on your life, what does match this season. If you feel like you start well, but you easily fall off the track that you've laid, here's what I want you to know. You're not alone. It happens to most all of us in life. But it doesn't have to keep being that way either. With some small but really powerful pivots, we can start to lay stronger track and stay on it for the long haul. I want to leave you with 6 takeaway questions. I would encourage you to sit with these, mull them over as you think about the goals, rhythms, and routines you're in the throes of right now. Number 1, where do I exhibit all or nothing thinking? Number 2, how can I scale back, start smaller, or implement flexibility to lean more into discipline and away from all or nothing thinking? Number 3, where am I hurrying? Number 4, what is 1 or 2 small things I could do to slow down and eliminate the anxiety that hurry brings? Number 5, what habits, routines, or goals are at most risk for going under right now? Number 6, what is my why for doing them in the first place? Girl, you got this. Don't give up. Just pivot and keep moving forward.
And that's a wrap. Thanks so much for tuning in today. Do you have questions, comments, or insights on today's content? I would love to hear from you. You can DM me on Facebook or Instagram, or head over to our website, inspiringheights.org, and click on the Contact Us form. I will link all those locations here in the show notes. P.S. If you haven't already, I would love for you to leave a 5-star rating and a quick review of the podcast. This helps get our content in the hands of new listeners. Don't forget to sign up for the newsletter and follow us on social media for rhythmic doses of inspiration. All right, friends, take a deep breath and be inspired where your feet are. Bye for now.